Good morning, I'm Wendy Burke, and this is the CBC Morning Report for Tuesday, September 21st. In our top story, Barbados has been fighting the battle against COVID-19 pandemic since March 2020. Regrettably, we've had 59 deaths. The country now has a spike in community transmission as well as the presence of variants. Some 866 people were in isolation up to last evening. On Morning Report, we're now joined by Minister of Health and Wellness, Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic, for some insight on the management of the virus. First up, are we officially on our third wave based on the criteria from the WHO and PAHO?
Good morning, Andy. Good morning to all. I do not really like to use the term waves, to be honest with you, because the way this thing is going right now, uh, I think there are two major periods of time that I would say that we have been inundated with cases back in January, February, that time period, and now the current surge. So we had two major surges since we've been fighting the variant, as you would recall, last year, and for most of the period between the first positive case and now, we had a very, very slow period prior to January this year. And so, for me, the first, if you want to call it a wave, it would have to be during the January, February, March period, and now this current surge. So, for me,
Okay.
this is the second major surge.
Okay. Well, the deaths in recent days have been very close. And yes, a number of the people have had comorbidities and were unvaccinated. But the question still has to be asked whether some of them reported too late for treatment or if there was ever insufficient manpower or equipment to be able to treat them adequately.
Yeah. No, we definitely have uh, enough based on the numbers that we've been seeing. We do have enough of the equipment that is required from ventilators and so on, and providing additional oxygen. So it really has not been that. The problem that we've been experiencing, and this happened again back in January, which caused us then to have to do the seek and save operation. And I think it is even worse now. We have too many people who are presenting very, very late. And this is something that we've been observing at the Accident and Emergency Department now for quite a few weeks. And we've been pleading with people to come forward. And in some cases, for example, we have people who would have reported to accident and emergency today, for example, and within a day or two at some point, they regrettably passed away. So this is really an ongoing situation, and this requires all of us who have, especially elderly persons, but sick persons in general, within our households, not to wait until it is too late to bring them for treatment and for assessment. This
Okay.
is all I can ask.
All right. The one place we only hear about when results are delayed is the lab, but I want to know what's really happening there now in terms of the variant testing. You'd reported a while back that they were doing some trials. So how close are we now to being able to do all of the testing here onshore for the variants?
Right. Well, we weren't doing trials. What we've been doing is the first screening of the genomic sequencing process, and this was facilitated by PAHO, by the donation of some of the kits that were required to do this, and we've been doing this, and it has been working for us successfully. In that the first screen that we've been having, when we send those samples then to CARFA for validation, almost 100%. The cases come back as the first screen had indicated. And this really has been going very well for us because it gives us time to plan. We can plan better, and we can fight the battle in a more prepared way. Because once the results come back from CARFA, then that's a historical account, because those results would not come back for about 10 to 12 days.
So
In
we're not
relation to,
at the point yet where CARFA can be eliminated from our process.
no, definitely not. Definitely not. We are still awaiting the arrival of the machines that would allow us to be able to do the genomic sequencing, the full sequencing. We also still have been finishing building the leptospirosis building that is located by the Best Dos Santos lab to be able to facilitate what would actually be a new lab. But we've been collaborating with our international partners, members of the diaspora, and we've been trying to get a link with or some collaboration going with a living lab in the United Kingdom that would then allow us to be able to move quickly once the equipment arrives.
Okay. Now, we have a number of protocols in place. Restrictions are constantly being tweaked, strengthened, relaxed, pulling brakes on back and forth. But yet the spread is growing. The sectors are saying we don't want another lockdown. What else is your ministry in a position to do at this point to curb this spread that we're seeing?
Well, as we have been stating, honestly, the vaccinations really is the key to curbing the spread, especially in relation to the amount of people who are reporting sick or getting very sick as a result of contracting the virus, the Delta. But the basic things still have to be followed. And we keep saying this all the time about the wearing masks, the physical distancing, etc. Because what we've seen, for example, is that in some of the corporate entities that have persons who have tested positive, we are not seeing in some of those places the widespreading of the variant or the virus. We are not seeing that, and we believe strongly that that is because the protocols at work in those institutions are being adhered to. But what we are seeing is a lot of families that are coming down with it, which suggests that that is where obviously people are not adhering to protocols, and in some of the communities across the country, it's the same.
Okay, will these new at-home isolation measures that the government is looking to institute, do you see that helping to cap off the spread within these family clusters?
Not to cap off the spread, because, for example, yeah, the home quarantine is a good thing. Once we get it organized properly, it's a good thing. It's similarly the home isolation in cases where that is possible. But what these do really is to ease the burden on the system and our ability to be able to quarantine or isolate persons. Because obviously, once the numbers continue to climb, and we use a lot of hotels, as you know, for quarantine, and with the tourist season really on the up, then we obviously will have a problem going down the road. But we have been doing quarantining in hotels for primary contacts now for several months, and that really has been key to having the spread not even increasing beyond control, so that we've been able to do some containment. But it is becoming more and more difficult to contain, obviously, because of the community spread that we are seeing at this time.
Okay, and finally, Minister Bostic, is there any pressing issue right now that you want to bring under closer and tighter management?
The pressing issue for me would be for Barbadians and all persons who reside here. The vaccine is available. You don't have to pay for the vaccines. And honestly, and I don't get into arguments about anti-vaxxers and all of that, you know within me that if we have enough people who take the vaccines, that this is going to be beneficial for the outcomes that we are seeing right now, and help us to get back to a state of normalcy. But my major thing, to be honest, is for persons who are wards, guardians, relatives, parents of elderly persons, one, and also young persons, children, because we are seeing an increase in the number of children under 18 testing positive, and this is part of a worldwide trend. And then we still have a number of elderly persons estimated to be around 20,000 who have not yet been vaccinated. And then the numbers who we are seeing coming into the accident and emergency are reporting to testing sites when they are already very ill. This is serious. This is a serious concern. And remember, our aim and objective is to save lives. And we want to be able to do this, but we cannot do this effectively if we do not have the cooperation of persons who are looking after others in their households.
Okay, I want to thank you very much. That's the Minister of Health and Wellness, Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic. Thanks for joining us on Morning Report. Next on Morning Report, updates on the COVID-19 pandemic. Another 104 people in Barbados have been diagnosed with COVID-19. The results came from tests conducted on Sunday by the Bestos Santos Public Health Laboratory. Of these new cases, 23 people are under 18 years, and there are now 866 patients in isolation. To date, 97,818 people are fully vaccinated. As health authorities continue to grapple with double and triple-digit daily cases of COVID-19, there are new plans in motion to help influence and educate Barbadians in the fight against the virus. COVID-19 Public Advisor David Ellis spoke about some of these strategies during a media briefing yesterday. CBC's Aaliyah Briggs reports.
One of the first items on the agenda for the COVID-19 Public Advisor is the modification of the COVID-19 dashboard. According to Mr. Ellis, the dashboard's accuracy has been questioned by the public on numerous occasions.
It is a complaint that has been coming at us time and time again. And we understand that if people do not trust information, it is going to be very difficult to mobilize those people to get them to do what they ought to do.
Mr. Ellis says in order to build public trust in this arena, experts will be employed to modify the dashboard and to ensure the data is presented in an accurate and comprehensible fashion.
We have now been able to get a surveillance officer and an epidemiologist to work with the people at Harrison Point in trying to get those numbers, and we are very hopeful that as a consequence of that, we will correct that particular problem.
Over the weekend, just over 1,000 Barbadians were vaccinated as government aims for a target of 50,000 people in 5 weeks. The COVID-19 Public Advisor says various strategies will be implemented to reach the public.
we have been involved since Friday in an exercise with the radio stations where we have been getting their support in one, reminding people of where the pop-ups and other vaccination centers are and what times, and also to reinforce a number of practices, protocols. We want especially the DJs to own this information and share it regularly with the public. Rather than relying on jingles, people really are driven by what the DJs say. And that kind of support is what we're already asking for.
Aaliyah Briggs, CBC News.
Grenada has announced new measures regarding the burial of people who have succumbed to COVID-19, as the island deals with an unprecedented number of daily deaths from the pandemic since August. Up until mid-August, the island had recorded only one death from the pandemic, but since then the death toll has risen to 50. Government officials say the island's funeral homes are now inundated with bodies needing to be prepared for burial. Among the new measures, anyone who dies from COVID infection will not be embalmed, and a maximum of 2 people will be allowed to view the body at the funeral home for identification purposes only. After the body is identified, the coffin or casket will be permanently sealed. President Joe Biden will ease foreign travel restrictions into the United States beginning in November, when his administration will require all foreign nationals flying into the country to be fully vaccinated. All foreign travelers flying to the U.S. will need to demonstrate proof of vaccination before boarding, as well as proof of a negative COVID-19 test within 3 days of flight.
It's one that the travel industry and hospitality industry has been really urging the Biden administration to take in terms of these changes. It's a Trump-era policy that Joe Biden decided to continue. And so since he took office, these industry leaders have been saying, we're getting hit really hard and it's hurting the bottom line and jobs are at stake. And so they've been looking for this change. Now it will be implemented starting in the start of November. And it's certainly welcome relief given the fact that we know just when we're talking about air travel from Europe, the flights are down about 67% from pre-pandemic levels. So this has been hurting the businesses quite badly. Now, there are a little bit of questioning about these changes given the fact that this only applies to air travelers to the United States. But the land border crossings, in other words, the northern border with Canada, the southern border with Mexico, those restrictions still stay in place. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of clarity about why. And particularly perplexing is the fact that when you look at the northern border, the Canadians opened up to vaccinated travelers their border for U.S. into Canada back on August 9th. And yet the United States has said, no, we're still going to prevent Canadians from coming in by car until at least the 21st and beyond. And this is a little confusing because Canadians are allowed to fly to the United States, but they can't cross in their car. So this is going to be a friction point for Canadians. Add to that, Canadians are watching very carefully the southern border, where we continue to see illegal crossings of undocumented migrants who are not really being tested with any sort of consistency, given the fact that often the authorities are not aware they've crossed over. So there are some questions about how this played out, but the White House insists that these are going to allow for more freedom of travel. And the thing they say that is good about all of this is that now, instead of being sort of blocked from traveling to the United States based on your country of origin, it will only be on your vaccination status. So it's an individual approach versus a country approach.
Time for a preview of what's coming up on Morning Barbados. And for that, we say good morning to Pearson Bowen.
Wendy, good morning to you. Good morning, everyone. Well, UNICEF Caribbean, they have joined with Rotary and the Childcare Board. They're looking at how we can prevent and save our children from online violence. We'll talk a little bit about that when we're joined by UNICEF's Eastern Caribbean representative and Barbados Minister of Elder Affairs and Community Empowerment. We'll talk a little bit about online safety as it relates to children. Plus, speaking of children, Dr. Gillian Birchwood will join us today as we look at how to protect our children from the COVID-19 Delta variant. And it's World Alzheimer's Day, and so Pamela Brereton, who is the president of the Barbados Alzheimer's Association, we will talk about no dementia, no Alzheimer's. All that and a little bit more coming up when you join me here on Morning Barbados. It's back to you.
Well, thank you, Pearson. We'll see you at the bottom of the hour. We'll take another break and return with more news. Prime Minister Mia Motley and more than 100 other world leaders and heads of government have converged on the New York headquarters of the United Nations for days of events and speeches to mark the 76th session of the UN General Assembly. 9 days of the annual general debate will begin today. That will include opportunities for world leaders to address the wider international community. Some leaders actually started talks yesterday, with the UN and the United Kingdom convening high-level meetings on climate change. The hope was to build momentum ahead of the COP26 summit set for Glasgow in November.
A lot of ground to cover, and we've only got 6 weeks now before those crucial negotiations take place in Glasgow in Scotland. I can tell you there's a degree of pessimism in the UN about this. The Secretary General himself told me he's worried about a mistrust between the developed and the developing world, and that's why this meeting that's taking place today, one day before the actual proper start of the UN General Assembly, which always traditionally starts on a Tuesday, is aimed to nudge world leaders forward. When you have a summit like this, normally it's a pretty set piece event, and you did see the Secretary General speak, and we also saw the K-pop band BTS giving a performance, trying to get the youth on board with the climate arguments, showing, I think, what an amazing stage the UN's building and campus is. But the actual meeting itself, the climate round table, is being held behind closed doors, and that's for a reason. I think they want to be very, very frank with the leaders about what is at stake and how little time is left. So clearly you're going to get climate and COVID-19, and right now I think the issue number one in terms of crises around the world is Afghanistan and the takeover of the Taliban. You're going to have a meeting with the 5 permanent members of the Security Council at foreign minister level. You're also going to have the foreign ministers of the G20 group of countries speaking about Afghanistan, a meeting too about women and girls in Afghanistan. But of course there are so many other issues, such a range of issues, whether you're looking at Syria, you're looking at Lebanon, you're looking at Libya, Tigray, Myanmar, so many issues, and if you look at most of these crisis points around the world, none of them are issues that are particularly improving.
Some members of the local business community are concerned that delays in getting their goods out of the Bridgetown port are resulting in a negative impact on food prices in Barbados. This is according to President of the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Anthony Branker, who says the delays led to additional costs which importers cannot absorb.
Any delays in getting containers out of the port is an additional cost to importers that at most times they cannot afford to absorb. And so the ease of doing business, or the lack thereof, as I said, is something that we need to look at in a very serious way because it is indeed affecting pricing in Barbados.
Said Michael Mann has been remanded in custody in connection with a recent police chase in St. George. 28-year-old Dario Jermaine Shuri of Hines Gap Halls Road appeared at the District B Magistrates Court before Magistrate Douglas Frederick yesterday. Shuri was charged with 2 counts of possession of a firearm and 2 counts of possession of ammunition, in addition to assault and traffic offenses. He was not required to plead to the firearm or ammunition offenses, which are all indictable. He, however, pleaded not guilty to the assault charge as well as the traffic offenses. Shuri was remanded into custody at Her Majesty's Prison and is scheduled to reappear at the District B Magistrates Court on October 18th this year. He's also set to appear in the District A Criminal Court on the 23rd of October. In the Bahamas, 9 members of the newly elected Prime Minister Philip Davis's cabinet were unveiled yesterday as they were sworn in by Governor General Sir Cornelius A. Smith. Davis said the ministers who took the oath of office during a ceremony at Bahamar are the initial members of a cabinet which will reflect the breadth and depth of the competencies and characteristics of the new team. He described it as experience combined with innovation, expertise combined with a willingness to see things anew, and integrity and a strong sense of purpose. Russian President Vladimir Putin's party has won a parliamentary majority following an election marred by reports of fraud. Opponents have accused Russian authorities of mass fraud after the ruling United Russia Party won a bigger-than-expected parliamentary majority despite unease over living standards.
As the results came in across 11 time zones, it quickly became clear that Russia's republics, territories and regions had delivered the victory Vladimir Putin expected. The pro-Kremlin United Russia Party has kept its 2/3 majority in parliament, allowing it to change the constitution.
The turnout was more than 51%. It is much more than the 47% of the previous election. It shows that people take seriously the formation of the highest representative agency of state power, the State Duma.
But the 3-day votes plagued with claims of vote rigging, such as ballot box stuffing. Electronic voting in Moscow seems to have been particularly difficult to check.
And 100.4% of people voted.
These results on the government's website show 100.4% of those registered cast their vote, which is not possible.
It's absolutely impossible to trust, even if the elections would have been perfect. Since the beginning of the year, we experienced a huge crackdown of any live, independent political life. We saw that they...
In sports, Andre Russell took 3 wickets to help the Kolkata Knight Riders crush Royal Challengers Bangalore by 9 wickets in yesterday's Indian Premier League match. Winning the toss and batting, RCB were dismissed for just 92, with Russell taking 3 for 9. In reply, KKR reached the target on 94 for 1 with 10 overs to spare. Shubman Gill led the way with 48. Here are the highlights. KKR's victory prevented RCB from taking the points lead. The result put RCB in 3rd place on 10 points, while KKR are 5th on 6. In today's match, the West Indies will be well represented when Chris Gale, Nicholas Puran and Fabian Allen will turn out for the Punjab Kings against Evan Lewis and Rajashton Riles. And it's time now for the weather. Well, that's it for this morning's report. We apologize for that weather report today. And next, Our newscast will be on TV8 Newsday at noon, so join us then. We now go to Pearson Bowen for Morning Barbados.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning, Barbados, good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, 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 morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, morning, Barbados, good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, morning, Barbados, good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
And a very good morning to you wherever you are. Welcome to today. Today is Tuesday, September the 21st, 2021. It is wonderful having you company. I'm Pearson Bowen, welcoming those of you in Barbados watching us on your TV screens. As always, thank you for your company. And for those of you watching us across the world via our YouTube channel and our Facebook streams as well, thank you too for joining us. Coming up a little later on in the show this morning, we'll hear from Sharita Odell, or Agent Sharita, in our real estate segment about shack up or shack out. Some of the questions you need to ask before you move in as an unmarried couple. That's definitely one thing you don't want to miss. And there's a brand new show coming to TV8 from tonight at 9, Beige Stage with Di Brown. He'll join us to talk a little bit more about that upcoming series. But let's get started by reminding you that this week we're celebrating the International Week of Deaf. And there are a number of things we're asking you to be mindful of and to be aware of and to be sensitive about. And one of those things today is to remember that the best ways of effecting lasting positive change for the deaf is to empower them, the community, from within, to build and develop confidence that inspire young deaf leaders to emerge and be craftsmen of their own fate. So let's be sensitive to our deaf community starting today and all week long indeed. And we'll be reminding you all week long of some of the actions you can take as we build awareness and we build sensitivity. Speaking of building awareness and sensitivity, let's turn our attention now to an ongoing online campaign against the abuse of online devices, really. And so we're joined this morning by Dr. Alois Kamurgi, who is the representative of UNICEF for the Eastern Caribbean, and the Honorable Cynthia Ford, who is Barbados Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs. Good morning, both of you.
Good morning, Pearson.
Good morning to you, Dr. Alois. You're UNICEF's Eastern Caribbean representative. Good morning, Minister Ford.
A blessed good morning to you and all of Barbados.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Now, UNICEF Eastern Caribbean has partnered with the Rotary Club and the Child Care Board in observing online safety for young people. Let's start with you, Dr. Alois. Let's talk about that particular partnership and how it's going to unfold.
Yeah, first of all, it's not the first time that we work with the Child Care Board to ensure that children are safe online. And as you know, Rotary is a global partner for UNICEF. So, Pearson, let me first of all share with you the magnitude of the issue we are talking about. In the world, we have roughly half of the population using internet. And the young people, I mean from 15 to 24 years old, represent 70% of those who are using internet. And you can imagine the exposure. And actually, it's 70% globally, but when we look at the Americas, the number rises to 90%. The Caribbean should not be far from that figure. And in the Caribbean specifically, we have adolescents using 8 hours online outside of the school work or the homeworks, and that's the adolescents and even the young people. The young people from 8 to 12 years old are using 5 hours. So our partnership with Child Care Board and Rotary is about raising awareness on the dangers we recognize, of course, that using internet has a lot of benefits. It helps the young people, adolescent children learning, getting knowledge, skills, abilities, but at the same time, we raise the attention about the dangers, the exposure to harmful material, to violent material, hate speech, child sexual abuse, images, risk of bullying, harassment, being groomed for sexual purposes, and so forth. So then it's about raising awareness and, of course, raising the attention of governments of countries that they have got to have a sound regulatory framework to ensure that our children are protected, and of course call those telecommunication companies to do their share in ensuring that the children are protected online. And of course, parents, educators, they have to ensure that they have to know what children are doing online and take action to reduce the risk. And of course, it's an opportunity also to raise awareness of young people, children themselves, to do also so they are sure to get protected when they are online.
Yes, Minister Ford, you are also responsible for the Child Care Board, but you are a mother, grandmother, and you are an educator. So you well know about the challenges that these young people face as it relates to digital literacy and the use and the access to devices and access to the internet, a whole host of things. What's your message to people today?
Thank you very much again. I would wish to encourage parents and guardians, because we keep saying parents only. But in this era of the challenges we face, guardians are extremely important as well, grandparents and uncles and aunties and so who have to assist when parents are out to work. But I would want to encourage them to continue to pursue supervision of children and therefore make sure that they have put controls in place on the electronic systems, that the monitoring can happen. And I encourage them, don't just take things for granted and assume that the children are watching cartoons when there are predators on the line, enticing them into doing all kinds of negative things. Also, encourage them to do some exercising. I think that sitting at the computer or the device for most of the day with the online learning, it is a new thing for us. But then we lack that exercise, and that sedentary lifestyle will surely impact on our young children who are not even allowed to go to play in certain places because of the protocols that are in place. So I encourage parents, guardians, caregivers, and all others who are supervising children, follow the protocols. Make sure also that you monitor what your children are watching, and as Dr. Loy said, make sure that you monitor them. Monitoring them is most important. And now that we've changed our whole community set of living, lifestyle of living, where our guardians and others in the village and our godmothers and godfathers would have been there to pop in on children. Nowadays, it's just this nuclear family rather than the extended family units, and that can also raise some problems. And so I encourage parents and guardians, look out for those pedophiles. There are still many thousands of them, locally and internationally, who can zoom in and teach our children or guide them down a negative path. Also, as I said, the monitoring of the movies they watch, when they should be doing valuable school or lessons, they are watching movies. They are also being enticed by others to do wrong, as well as watching those movies that have guns and shooting and the violence that will help to negatively impact on their own development and their psyches. So I am extremely proud that the UNICEF has played, and Dr. Alois mentioned that, over the years, and they will continue in other spheres of the development, as well as for Parados, that would have been one of the teams working with them, and of course, the Rotary Club, as well as our officers at the Child Care Board who are working more directly with the children, especially those who are living in care. And I think it is an excellent idea. And of course, we in the ministry have started our parenting training the trainers in association with Barbados. And as time goes by, we want to be able to really reach out into the communities, engage our PTAs and other groups, because our children are valuable. God has blessed us with them. And the Bible reminds us that we should train up our children in the way they should go, so that when they're old, they'll never depart from it. And once we season them with the good tenets and morals and values, then I believe that we will get the best of citizens. When personally you and I,
Yes.
Dr. Alois and others may be hushed and gone, our children would have been adults and they will carry on that mantra.
Absolutely. So the campaign starts, and so how is the campaign going to be rolled out? What are the signs that we can look for to see the campaign fully in action, Dr. Alois?
Yeah, you know, for UNICEF is a global organization. These initiatives that are being taken here in Barbados are also rolled out globally across the different countries. And here in Barbados, you will see materials developed by Child Care Board to raise awareness on the dangers of this digital world. And of course, there will be interactions with duty bearers, parents, educators, and the children themselves.
So online, there are going to be a campaign where we're going to see images. We'll see some images posted across the I suppose, on bus stops and different public spaces where people can engage with the messaging there. Dr. Ms. Ford, let's talk a little bit about that, how the Child Care Board, how are we going to splash our messages so we see a change in behavior by our adults and also by our children?
Thank you.
Right.
The Child Care Board is one of those dynamic institutions that have been for many years working and nurturing children. And no one can tell the difference between a child who was raised in the Child Care Board from a child who was raised in the regular home. And so we are not only reaching out to the ones in our care, but of course extending it to the rest of the public. And the only way that we can make the public aware or to sensitize them is to ensure that we use the bus stops and other media to be able to reach the rest of the public so that they too, regular parents in the homes and the communities, can get to understand what it is about, making them aware of the challenges that they will face with their children who would be at home or in whichever institution, and that the monitoring aspects of them will be in place for them to be able to go to say, hi, I only saw it on the bus stop. I wasn't home to see Mornin Barbados. However, that is a great thing. I'm going to share this information now with my next door neighbor and my colleagues at work so that we can all band together in a holistic way to be able to work towards nurturing our children and bringing them up in the best way possible so that they can become the good citizens we understand. And for what we are doing, we believe that it will permeate into the rest of the society and in their lives forever. So it is an excellent project, and I'm
Indeed.
proud to be associated with the UNICEF and the Child Care Board and all other institutions that come on board, Ministry of Education and others, to be able to ensure that we protect our children in the best way possible.
Indeed. In this campaign, we'd want adults and caregivers to ask questions. What is your child doing online? Try to keep those devices in family areas. Those are some steps that we want people to tangibly do. Remind them never, these are the children, never to share personal information. I think the adults also need to be reminded of that as well. Check the privacy settings on all accounts. Use parental control to monitor what your child is doing online. Block inappropriate sites and set time limits. Those are disciplines that we've all been taught over the years, and so we want you to use the same disciplines in the digital sphere as well. But there's some beautiful graphics and images that you've created. There's a lovely set of videos as well that you'll be rolling out. And folks, you can go onto the Child Care Board's Facebook page or Instagram pages, and you can share those stories where you recognize that the internet can be good, but it can also be a bad place. And what are some of the things that we can effectively do from today, starting today, as this collaboration unfolds? And we, as part of the society, will be required to step up and play our part as we protect our children. Our children are a huge resource. They're a precious resource, and we need to all play our part to protect them, and we protect our society at large as well. I want to thank both of you for joining us today. Prevent online abuse, protect your child, use only child-friendly apps and websites, ensure that the people they talk with online are people they know in real life. Talk with them about inappropriate messages. Remind them to never give out private information. A message from UNICEF for every child and the Child Care Board of Barbados. And there you see the images. Child Care Board Barbados on Facebook and Instagram. So Dr. Alois Kamarigi and Honorable Cynthia Ford, Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, thank you for joining us this morning, and all the best of luck with this online campaign. Thank you.
You are most welcome. Thank you very much. And I want to remind the children and the parents, continue to follow the protocols. Every child's life matters.
Absolutely.
God bless you all.
Likewise. Morning Barbados will continue right after this.
These days, it seems our children are online all the time. It's up to us to prevent online abuse and to protect our children. We can do this by limiting them to child-friendly apps and websites and ensuring that the people they talk with online are people they also know in real life. Talk with them about inappropriate messages and to let you know if they have received any. And remind them to never give out private information. We can help to prevent online abuse. For more information, please contact the Child Care Board at 535-2800 or follow us on Facebook and Instagram. This message has been produced in collaboration with UNICEF with funding from the UNICEF Netherlands National Committee.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
11 and a half minutes now to go to 7 o'clock. Today, September the 21st, is World Alzheimer's Day. One day when we stop to know dementia, know Alzheimer's. And this is not N-O, this is K-N-O-W, know more about. And so joining us this morning is the president of the Barbados Alzheimer's Association, Pamela Burton. Good morning to you, Pamela. Good to see you again.
Good morning. Love to see you as well.
Right. So today is one day of the year when we stop to focus on dementia and Alzheimer's. For a lot of people, they don't understand the difference, if there is a difference. What can you say?
Actually, persons need to understand dementia is a term that is used to describe a whole group of diseases, with Alzheimer's being one of the main ones. And as you started off with the theme, which is no dementia, no Alzheimer's, people need to understand that they need to know the signs also of what would trigger Alzheimer's. If you like, I can give you all those examples.
If you can, you said that there are signs that would trigger Alzheimer's. So what are some of those triggers?
Okay. Memory loss, for instance, that's one of the signs that we have. That means you forget things or you struggle with new words or new information. Then there's difficulty performing a familiar task, meaning forgetting how to do something that you have done before or something you've done your whole life. Problems with language, forgetting and stuttering words that don't fit into the context of what you want to talk about. Disorientation in time and space, that's another one. That means not knowing what the day is or find yourself getting lost in a familiar place, even in your own home. Impaired judgment, not recognizing a medical problem that needs attention, or wearing light clothes on a cold day. Problems with abstract thinking, that means having problems checked with your checkbooks and balancing your checkbooks and understanding the numbers. Then there is also misplacing things, which is one of the big ones, because persons with dementia have a habit of misplacing things and then blaming others for it. Changes in mood and behavior, exhibiting severe mood swings from being easygoing to quick-tempered. Changes in personality, behaving out of character, becoming confused, suspicious, or fearful. Loss in initiative, losing interest in your friends and your favorite activities, not wanting to do things that you would normally do. So those are the warning signs for dementia.
So some would say, some would say you're just having a bad day, but it's not taking that day in isolation. It's looking at it over a period of time and recognizing that these things are occurring more and more, and that's when the concern needs to be raised. Am I right?
That's correct. And what people need to understand is that the disease itself can start as far back as 20 years before finally one day it will manifest itself. But it goes that far back. So I think if you notice that you're doing things out of the ordinary like now, it's time to check. I mean, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times you're doing the same thing, something's definitely wrong. So you need to go and get those things checked. And also I think family members need to observe each other a lot more. I find people don't look at, your mom, your mom, this is my mom, she's doing something strange. And each time she did it yesterday, she's doing it today. And all of those are things that we should be looking at.
So it requires a family to be involved in monitoring to see. And a lot of times people tend to think that Alzheimer's and dementia steps in as we grow old, quote unquote old. But that's not the reality today.
No. There are a lot of people, even right here in Barbados, we have people in the late 30s and so on who have Alzheimer's. I recently had a call from a lady, she's 55, and she has Alzheimer's. And in my conversations, I always say my brother started at 51. So, and now, what is interesting, person, right now with COVID, there's research that is being out that I recently received where it say that that dementia can also be triggered by the COVID. So that means we're going to be in for a worse situation when it comes to this dementia. It's not going to get better, it's going to get worse.
Yes,
and we have an aging society as well, and that even makes things even worse.
Right. But there's a sensitivity that is required from everyone, really, as we mark the World Dementia Day today. It's a disease and injuries that affect the brain, such as Alzheimer's disease and strokes. Those are some of the leading causes. And, in being able to care for your loved one who is now exhibiting a change in attitude, a change in character, that a lot of times you don't quite understand how to manage, gets very difficult. What can you tell us about the number of calls that you've been receiving for support from your organization?
Well, I get at least, and it's gone up now. It used to be 5 days I would get a call for every 5 calls a day. Now it's gone up to be worse. And sometimes I even get a call at 11 o'clock at night. I'm asleep, and normally I could go to bed at 8 o'clock. I'm one of those people that go to bed at 8 o'clock and I'm up by 4:30. It's a habit of mine I've done all my life. But sometimes in the middle of the night, the phone would ring. Someone is calling me, look, my mama, she wants to go home. And that's always a big one. I want to go home. The person may be born in St. George, but all of a sudden now they've been living after they're married or whatever. They're living in Christchurch or St. Lucie or whatever. So because persons with dementia have long-term memory, they want to go home. So what do? The bags are packed, you're at the door. I always suggest put the person in the car, take them for a little drive, and come back. Eventually they forget and they go back in the house. And that works like a charm.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you have someone with dementia who has to take medication, though, and again, the ability to remember, to recall that you have to take it at a particular time, what's the medical regime, that gets a little difficult to manage. What are some of the recommendations you'd give to someone watching today who is facing this head on about how they can manage that care for their loved ones?
You know, it's like playing a game as a child. And that's a big problem. You're quite right about that. I get a lot of calls about that. And sometimes, I know in my case, one of the things I used to do is when it's medication time, you take yours at the same time and get the person to join you. Say, well, this is mine, that's yours. That worked for me. It could probably work for them, but then it might not work for somebody else. So then there are times you might have to crush up the medication and put it into the food. All kinds of little creative ideas will pop into your head, and to get the person to take the medication. Because if you give it to them, they might hide it.
Yes, make a habit of it, to make a routine of it in some way, so that it builds into their psyche.
And you just use the right word, routine. A routine.
Let's talk about the importance of routine, though, in caring for someone who has dementia.
Well, another big issue there is bathing. That's another one. And with COVID now in place, I cannot go out like I used to, because I used to get calls where a person would say, well, I can't get mommy or daddy to bathe. Now, nobody has to bathe every day. We do it because we've got the water and we've got the soap. So therefore, why not enjoy it? But a person with dementia would not be thinking that you or I. So they don't want to bathe. They're not going to bathe. But there's a technique in which you can use to get that person to even sponge off. And I often say, allow the person to have their coffee or their tea or whatever in the morning at the table, whether it's in the kitchen or the dining room. And at the same time, you can also get yourself a little basin of water, the soap, and whatever you use, and just place it beside you. And while they're having their coffee, you start from the back by rubbing their neck with the washcloth, and at the same time, you might even give them one so that they can rub their legs and so on.
Right.
And at the same time, you talk about the past, because everything in that person's mind is about the past. You talk about the past. And Mom, do you remember when we were children and we walked down by Mr. Jones and we would steal his apples or whatever, and he would set the dog on us? Things that she would remember that you would have done. And meanwhile, you're doing that, and she's so engaged in what you're talking about because it's of yesterday, that eventually you get to sponge the person off, and they're doing it to themselves as well. So that's one little technique that I've learned on my own, and I've taught people in Barbados how to do that. I mean, I've gone into homes in St. Peter and other places like that, and I've actually shown people how to do that. And it works.
What you're calling for is a huge amount of sensitivity and a huge amount of patience. And that for a lot of people sometimes, especially when you're the caregiver and you're working, it gets very difficult to manage. So a word of advice for them as they're caring for their loved one. What do you say?
It's a very tough job being a caregiver. And I always say some of us are born with that talent and others are not. So I always suggest if you can't handle it, it's time to get someone else. You might find somebody else in the family that might be able to help. You know, if you grow up in a house like I did with the 6 of us, well, I'm the one that's always doing everything. But at the same time, you got to encourage them to say, well, look, you know, I cannot take care of me alone. Come with me and I'll show you what to do. And get people to involve, even church members, get your friends and family involved. There's a gentleman that calls me all the time, and he works, and his mom is constantly calling him and, at work, and it's affecting his job. So I said to him, well, what about your neighbor? Do you know the neighbor? Does your mom know the neighbor? Why don't you get her involved? Call her and say, well, look, would you check on mommy for me at 12 o'clock and make sure that she's eating her food? Because I cannot leave my job all the time to go home. I mean, he might be living in Christchurch and my job might be in the middle of St. Michael, Bridgetown somewhere. So therefore, you cannot leave to go and look after mom as much as you would want to, you know. So he did get in touch with the neighbor, and apparently it worked. Right. I said, all you have to do at the end of the day, or the end of the whenever, just make sure that you buy that neighbor a lovely gift or offer a little bit of finances or anything that would make it work, because it's not an easy task. It really is not. And I think sometimes I cry when I listen to certain people on the phone. But the truth of the matter is, sometimes I say to myself, maybe this is what I should have been doing all my life, because my heart goes out to people. I love people. I always say to people, but my favorite thing, people in life are children and old people. Anything in the middle, you're going to look after yourself. So I do that from my heart, and I do it, and I feel good about it after, knowing that I'm caring for someone or helping someone. Because if you can't do that for someone these days, you're in trouble.
No. It's going to take a complete community to really step up to assist. And these are critical members of our society as well. We can't just turn our backs on anyone who's affected by Alzheimer's or dementia. We should not. And so for anyone watching this morning who wants your assistance, how can they reach out to your organization to get that assistance?
We have a website. You can go on the website, or you can call me at 418-0741, and I'll be happy to chat with you.
418-0741. Pamela Burton, who is the president of the Barbados Alzheimer's Association, they can help.
Correct.
It's not easy, but there is help. Thank you so very much for joining us this morning, World Alzheimer's Day.
Trust me, it's going to get worse. The report should be out. The report should be out this morning from Alzheimer's Disease International.
Okay, so we'll wait to see that report. Thank you so very much for joining us this morning. All the best indeed. We're going to take a break here. If I could know the time, I'll tell you. But we can take a break here and we'll be right back with more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
3 minutes after 7 o'clock, let's take a look at the news. Once again, here's Wendy Burke.
Thank you, Pearson. Prime Minister Mia Moore-Motley and more than 100 other world leaders and heads of government have converged on the New York headquarters of the United Nations for days of events and speeches to mark the 76th session of the UN General Assembly. 9 days of the annual general debate will begin today. That will include opportunities for world leaders to address the wider international community. Some leaders actually started talks yesterday, with the UN and United Kingdom convening high-level meetings on climate change.
A lot of ground to cover, and we've only got 6 weeks now before those crucial negotiations take place in Glasgow in Scotland. I can tell you there's a degree of pessimism in the UN about this. The Secretary General himself told me he's worried about a mistrust between the developed and the developing world, and that's why this meeting that's taking place today, one day before the actual proper start of the UN General Assembly, which always traditionally starts on a Tuesday, is aimed to nudge world leaders forward. When you have a summit like this, normally it's a pretty set-piece event, and you did see the Secretary-General speak, and we also saw the K-pop band BTS giving a performance, trying to get the youth on board with the climate arguments, showing, I think, what an amazing stage the UN's building and campus is. But the actual meeting itself, the climate round table, is being held behind closed doors. And that's for a reason. I think they want to be very, very frank with the leaders about what is at stake and how little time is left. So clearly you're going to get climate and COVID-19. And right now, I think the issue number one in terms of crises around the world is Afghanistan and the takeover of the Taliban. You're going to have a meeting with the 5 permanent members of the Security Council at foreign minister level. You're also going to have the foreign ministers of the G20 group of countries speaking about Afghanistan, a meeting too about women and girls in Afghanistan. But of course there are so many other issues, such a range of issues, whether you're looking at Syria, you're looking at Lebanon, you're looking at Libya, Tigray, Myanmar, so many issues. And if you look at most of these crisis points around the world, none of them are issues that are particularly improving.
Russian President Vladimir Putin's party has won a parliamentary majority following an election marred by reports of fraud.
As the results came in across 11 time zones, it quickly became clear that Russia's republics, territories and regions had delivered the victory Vladimir Putin expected. The pro-Kremlin United Russia Party has kept its 2/3 majority in parliament, allowing it to change the constitution.
The turnout was more than 51%. It is much more than the 47% of the previous election. It shows that people take seriously the formation of the highest representative agency of state power, the State Duma.
But the 3-day vote plagued with claims of vote rigging, such as ballot box stuffing. Electronic voting in Moscow seems to have been particularly difficult to check.
And 100.4% of people voted.
These results on the government's website show 100.4% of those registered cast their vote, which is not possible.
It's absolutely impossible to trust, even if the elections would have been perfect. Since the beginning of the year, we experienced a huge crackdown of any live, independent political life. We saw that they removed Navalny headquarters. The last straw on our back, that was e-voting, and the whole results are now hung.
Mikhail Lobanov had been far ahead after the count of the manual votes, but lost to United Russia once long-delayed electronic votes were added. Lobanov, standing with the communists, had benefited from tactical voting. He's one of more than 1,000 candidates identified by opposition activists as being best placed to beat United Russia. The Communist Party has rejected the election results.
I say as a mathematician, overnight United Russia's results have been growing, Communists' results have been falling, and 2 other parties' results haven't been changing. This is the main tool of falsifications. It's unacceptable in any country.
Polls before the ballot had suggested that frustration with years of falling living standards and corruption would dent United Russia's support. But it was down only 4% on the previous election. The election was widely seen as a vital part of Vladimir Putin's effort to cement his grip on power ahead of the 2024 presidential election. The president hasn't said yet whether he'll stand as a candidate again.
President Joe Biden will ease foreign travel restrictions into the United States beginning in November, when his administration will require all foreign nationals flying into the country to be fully vaccinated.
It's one that the travel industry and hospitality industry has been really urging the Biden administration to take in terms of these changes. It's a Trump-era policy that Joe Biden decided to continue. And so since he took office, these industry leaders have been saying, we're getting hit really hard and it's hurting the bottom line and jobs are at stake. And so they've been looking for this change. Now it will be implemented starting in the start of November. And it's certainly welcome relief given the fact that we know just when we're talking about air travel from Europe, the flights are down about 67% from pre-pandemic levels. So this has been hurting the businesses quite badly. Now, there are a little bit of questioning about these changes given the fact that this only applies to air travelers to the United States. But the land border crossings, in other words, the northern border with Canada, the southern border with Mexico, those restrictions still stay in place. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of clarity about why. And particularly perplexing is the fact that when you look at the northern border, the Canadians opened up to vaccinated travelers their border for U.S. into Canada back on August 9th. And yet the United States has said, no, we're still going to prevent Canadians from coming in by car until at least the 21st and beyond. And this is a little confusing because Canadians are allowed to fly to the United States, but they can't cross in their car. So this is going to be a friction point for Canadians. Add to that, Canadians are watching very carefully the southern border, where we continue to see illegal crossings of undocumented migrants who are not really being tested with any sort of consistency, given the fact that often the authorities are not aware they've crossed over. So there are some questions about how this played out, but the White House insists that these are going to allow for more freedom of travel. And the thing they say that is good about all of this is that now, instead of being sort of blocked from traveling to the United States based on your country of origin, it will only be on your vaccination status. So it's an individual approach versus a country approach.
And that's it for news on Morning Report. It's over to Pearson and Morning Barbados.
Wendy, thank you. It's 11 minutes after 7 o'clock. We're coming back with our Crumbs question of the day after this break.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Spot on 13 minutes after 7 o'clock. Time for you quickly to get on the phones to call me on 228-5562 or 228-5563 because I have a question. Time for today's Crumbs question of the day. 228-5562 or 228-5563. It's an easy Japanese question today. Are you ready for today's question? 228-5562 or 63. In April 1999, this famous square was renamed National Hero Square. My question now, what was its original name? In April 1999, this famous square was renamed National Hero Square. What was its original name? Easy, see? 228-5562 or 228-5563. You get a chance to win with Crumbs Bakery today. In April 1999, this famous square was renamed National Hero Square. What was its original name? Good morning, hello.
Peace be unto you and yours.
Likewise to you, Gail. What was its original name?
Square.
You're spot on right, Gail. Well done today. Congratulations.
Yes,
stay right there on the phone.
Okay.
Stay on the phone, Gail. We'll take some more information from you. So she's correct in saying it was formerly named Trafalgar Square. It's now called National Hero Square since April 1999. That's it for today's Crumbs question of the day. Should it be God's will, another question comes your way tomorrow. Let's take a break, and when we come back, time for us to meet up with Dr. Gillian Birchwood.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
16 after the hour now, time for pediatric care with our favorite pediatrician, Dr. Gillian Birchwood. Dr. Birchwood, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pearson and Barbados. How are you?
I'm well today. How are you doing?
I am good. Thank you.
Today we want to look at how to protect our children against the Delta variant of COVID-19. And you know, every day we see the numbers come out, and every day my ears prick when I listen to how many double digits are less than 18 years old. And it hurts the heart to think our children are being impacted in this way. So what do we do to protect our children against COVID-19 Delta variant?
Yes, you know, the same as you. I wince a little bit every time when the news comes on and you hear about the numbers of children under 18 who are being affected. And I think that this has made a lot of parents very aware that they need to do whatever they can to protect their child. And protecting your child starts at home. So you need to make sure that you provide a safe home environment for your child. As soon as you walk through the door as a parent, you should have a sanitization station that you will make sure that you clean your hands on arrival. Because what happens a lot of times, for example, is a parent might come home from work, they rush through the door, let me get the cooking done, and they're not stopping to make sure that their hands are clean. Or they greet their children as soon as they walk through the door. There should be a home sanitization station. So as soon as you come in, you will stop, make sure your hands are clean, and then you can continue into the rest of the house. If you are on public transport, for example, you shouldn't be coming in and hugging your children. Or if you are in a frontline job, you work in the supermarket, you work in the gas station, you work in the tourism industry, the airport, or you work in the healthcare industry, you should make sure that you take precautions before you interact with your children. You come to the door, don't greet them in the way that you would physically affectionate, in that physically affectionate way. Go change your clothes, bathe, make sure that you provide that first layer of protection for your children. In addition to that, try hard not to carry them out to the supermarket and all around. We know we don't want them just staring at the four walls, but you know, it's really not a good idea to carry, you know, all 6 of them to the supermarket. You know how children are? They're always touching everything.
Yes.
They can't help it. So you have to be really careful about carrying them out in environments where they're going to do what they naturally do with their curious little selves.
But even
you have no choice.
But even with their curious little selves, there's some things we still can teach them because, as you said, they can't sit there and stare at the 4 walls. And I'll tell you what I do. My whole thing is, 1, don't touch. But secondly, if you do touch, we are sanitizing right away. And that's the whole point, to teach them the things they ought to do, as you know, we can't protect them forevermore.
Absolutely. We need to, as parents, guardians, family members, we need to make sure that we model the correct behavior. So when they go out, that mask has to be on properly, not under your nose, as many people seem to like to do. And when you touch anything, you need to sanitize your hands. When your children see that, they're going to know that this is the behavior they need to model. They watch us all the time. So that's definitely very important.
I think one of the most, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that in addition, the youngest ones, you need to keep them right close by your side, because not only are they going to want to touch everything, they're going to want to touch everyone and interact with them as well. So you have to be very careful about that social distancing.
Fortunately, they're growing more and more accustomed now to wearing of masks. Even though for a lot of them, it's the most miserable thing for them to have on their face as well. So let's talk about mask etiquette so that children understand that this is also, and parents, it's a critical barrier against being affected by the Delta variant.
Yes, so there's no one strategy that's going to protect us. It's going to be multiple layers. So mask wearing should be for children aged 2 and up. And as you rightly said, many of them are really comfortable and they're very good with it. They've been taught so in school. So that mask needs to completely cover the mouth and the nose, and they should not be touching and adjusting their mask all the time. Because if you touch a contaminated surface and then you touch the mask, you're going to be introducing viruses directly into the area where you can be transmitted with the Delta variant or with the COVID virus. So very important.
Can you imagine a baby 2 years old wearing a mask? And how do you get the child to settle with this mask on its face?
Well, sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's a disaster. It depends on the child, it depends on the day, and it depends on their mood. I've seen children as young as 1 begging their parents to wear a mask because they're seeing everybody else doing it. But it really is not safe for younger children, because then it can be a choking hazard and it can actually make things worse if they're touching it all the time. But we should encourage them with good habits to be wearing that mask from age 2 and up. And as you said, don't touch is particularly important.
But at some point, I mean, they are going to interface, whether it's around the house with their neighborhood children, their friends in the area, 1 or 2 of them come over to play. And so what are some of the things that we need to make sure our children do not do, or they do so that they're protected against the spread of COVID-19?
Yes. So in our social space, I think one of the things that parents can do is to bubble with other families who are like-minded. And we're not talking about a large group of extended friends and family. We're talking about a couple of children who you know their parents are just as particular as you to make sure that you have safe friends and a safe space. So that it's actually recommended that when children play with each other, if they're not sharing the same household, that they should wear masks. And I've seen this in other countries, and I think it's something that we should consider doing. Once we say it's something that should be done, the children actually accept it very readily. They should socially distance. Ideally, they should be playing outside and not in close proximity. And children love playing outside. They go to the beach, they can go to a park, and they can spread out and they can play in a very safe way. In addition to that, if they're going to visit grandma, grandpa, we should make sure, again, they don't go inside. They can stay outside, play outside, socialize outside, and it can be a very pleasant experience for the children. So it's not to say that we should not do anything, but we have to take care with how we do things in this era of COVID-19.
Children are very affectionate. They love to hug each other, and they love to hug their adults. They love to feel hugged themselves as well. So how do you not hug your little sweet one? How do you not do that?
Well, certainly within the family, within your immediate family environment, you certainly can lavish all the affection you like on the children. I love to hug them. Children do love to be hugged. As you said, they love physical affection. So we should not, as parents, withhold that from them. But when they go into a social environment that is not within their safe family bubble, I think for now we're going to have to be very careful about physical affection. And we're going to have to make sure that people that we associate with don't have any symptoms of illness that could be COVID-19. And that is a vast number of symptoms. In addition to runny nose and cough, vomiting, diarrhea, rash, you have to be very careful not to put yourself in a situation where someone might be ill. Even if they just think it's a little sinus infection or something mild, it might not be.
Right, you're so right. So let's walk through a checklist then. Child is at home, child comes to the door. we must have a sanitization station, you say, or at least as soon as possible head to the sinks and wash your hands.
Correct. So you want to have a home sanitization station. You want to make sure that when you go out that you are wearing a mask at all times. You want to make sure that there is physical distancing, both in the environment if you're going to the supermarket, for example, but also in social situations, there needs to be this social distancing. We need to reinforce with our children not to be touching everything in their environment, whether it's at home or eventually it's going to be in school. We need to have safe family bubbles with small numbers of friends, very small numbers, so that we can make sure we mitigate the spread. And finally, we need to be aware that we should not be afraid to ask each other about symptoms which could be COVID-19, so that we can take the necessary precautions, get tested, and avoid contact with people who may have COVID-19.
And this holds for children from very young up until 18. Children is every one of them. So don't think the older the child is, the child should therefore know. Don't assume it, parent. You need to also reinforce it with them as well. But there are children who love to suck their thumb.
Yes,
my goodness.
That is a huge challenge.
Yes.
It's a huge challenge. There's no perfect answer. You know, you have that little 2-year-old and they're sucking their thumb and they're going to touch everything. And so it's really very challenging, first of all, just to break the habit of thumb sucking and then to remind them of the consequences. 2-year-olds aren't interested in consequences and they aren't interested in your personal problems. So it can be very, very challenging. So I do acknowledge it's not going to be a perfect scenario, but keep the hand wipes around and try to avoid them having too much alcohol hand sanitizer because they like to lick it off, and that can actually be associated with alcohol poisoning.
Indeed. Great advice as always, Dr. Gillian Bertrand. You know, it's always our immense pleasure meeting with you on a Tuesday morning, and we do look forward, if it be God's will, to sit in your chambers again to enjoy another intercession with you. Thank you so much for joining us again this morning.
Thank you for having me, Pearson. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much. Dr. Gillian Bertrand, a pediatrician of note, and we encourage you to get to know more about how you can protect your child against the Delta variant of COVID-19 by following much of her checklist, which she shared with us this morning. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we introduce you to the host of a brand new show starting tonight, right here on TV8. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's now 28 minutes after 7 o'clock. Starting tonight at 9 right here on CBC TV8 Beijing TV is a brand new show called Beige Stage. And the person hosting this show is hugely talented. Take a look and then we'll talk to him right after.
Hi, I'm Di Brown and this is Beige Stage TV. What is Beige Stage TV?
So now you know, there he is. There he is. You've seen him on social media. You know his weather forecast. He says it for real. Di Brown, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm
Mornin
doing well.
Barbados.
How are you doing?
I am relatively fantastic. Can't complain at this time.
Well, not at this time, but maybe later, right? No problem. Now, listen, you're going to be transitioning from social media now onto the big screens, TV, coming to every person's TV set in Barbados. Talk to me about Beige Stage and what's the philosophy behind it?
Well, last year the NCF came out with the Kovit creative, a technical assistant grant. I can't remember the exact term.
Yes.
But they were telling artists they were offering some funds to do projects. So I went forward, and this was the project I went forward with. Beige Stage TV is all about highlighting Bajan theater practitioners, literal Bajan theaters, as in Daphne Joseph Hackett Theater, Frank Colmer Hall. It's all about highlighting and showcasing Bajan theater and Bajan theater history.
So you're showing us the spaces where theater is practiced. You're showing us the people who also do theater as well. So it's going to be, I think, a very interesting show. Now we know you to be a man who does not hold his tongue. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how you refrain from saying what you know you should not say on national TV. So are we going to get the whole spirit of Di Brown still in Beige Stage?
Well, I am a theater practitioner. I am an artist. I'm a writer. I'm a director. There are many facets to Di Brown, and not only maybe the professor that they know me for that breaks down certain words, or as the weatherman, as you highlighted earlier. So to me, sometimes I teach school children. Sometimes I perform in churches. So there's always different dynamics. There's not only one side of Di Brown that you might be accustomed to. So people don't have to fear. Your grandmother can watch this television show. It's very G-rated. Tonight's episode is Victor Clifford, and it's a fantastic episode. We not only find out about Victor Clifford's journey through theater, but he almost breaks down theater history, like that post-1960s history coming up. So it's going to be a fantastic, not only educational, but entertaining show as well.
How is it for you, though, putting this all together? Because you're the producer, you're also an actor, as you said, and you're just multi-talented. So how is it working to get this to this stage now?
Well, the difficulty is the post. It was easy to get the theater practitioners there to talk to them, but of course now the post, trying to get the footage, dealing with the editor, getting it all put together. But I enjoy the experience. It is not really, I'm not acting per se in this. I'm the host. I'm interviewing people, so it is not like as intense in terms of the actor view. But producing it, that was more of a challenge. I now can say that I'm a producer.
All right.
I don't get used to it.
But you also have a greater appreciation for what we do, and how we make it seem almost so seamless, moving from one moment to the next and then over a period of time. Because let me tell you, to do the durations of a show ain't easy, to stay focused and to get it done.
Yeah, but you guys are live, which is a whole different thing. We have the opportunity to get the footage and take our time and edit here and add the music and all that. So I appreciate it. But I have been on CBC since 2009 with Secrets. A lot of the other population will know me as Richard.
Yes.
So it's good to be back on CBC in a different capacity.
So it starts tonight at 9 o'clock, and you would want, therefore, as you said, it's G-rated, so it's good for granny to watch. It's good for any age to watch, really and truly. And it's an opportunity for us to begin to see our theatre spaces and to bring theatre back to the people, because for a little while it's gone quiet, theatre. And so is that your primary objective, to return theatre to some degree of prominence?
Yes, and we actually talk about that in this episode. People would say even before COVID, you could say that theater was dead. And these are the topics that we discuss. We talk about Victor Clifford would have talked about the surge of the theater in the 1980s with Earl Warner, and then the kind of decline in the after 2000. So yes, as a I'm an actor. A lot of people know me from social media or TV or whatever, but I love theater. And I think that we need to, especially this COVID time where we can't really physically do theater, that we still, as you say, keep theater in prominence and in the people's minds.
So how else can we do it? I mean, you do what you do as the one-man show, almost, online. And so I would want, therefore, to see, I agree with you. I'm in total agreement with you. I'd like to see more of our theatre practitioners do more so that they stay relevant, theatre remains relevant, and we here at CBC TV create a space for you to show us what you're doing as well, because Bajers love to see Bajers do well.
Yes. I would say, like, for example, right now, I won the Genomic Best Theatre Production for last year, and that's for my stand-up comedy, which is a very simple theatre show to do. A microphone, a little lights, and they gone clear.
Yeah.
But to do an actual the production it really costs a lot of money. We don't really get subsidies here like in other countries. So we would need corporate Barbados to come forward and, I say, look, let me support some theater. I know certain companies used to support theater in the past, in the 80s, and we need that because theater is expensive, especially now theaters are expensive, $2,000 sometimes per night for just one night, and that's not the lighting, the act, and all that stuff. So theater is expensive, theater needs support, financially and otherwise.
I think hearing it from you, I hope it really resonates in the mindsets and eventually into the checkbooks of those who can make a difference. Because you're so right. Theatre does make a difference. It makes a difference to its audience. It makes a difference to its practitioner as well. And I want to give full support to it. Now, so tonight at 9 o'clock, you will be on the stage, the first in the series called Beige Stage TV. How many are in the series?
In this series, we have 6 episodes. The first episode, as I said, is Victor Clifford. The second is the one and only Cynthia Wilson. Right. The third episode will be Winston Farrell. Then we have Tony Thompson. You know this gentleman very well. And we have Sonia Williams. And then we're going to end it with Earl Warner. We're going to highlight Earl Warner, one of Barbados' well-known theater director. So that's the season for now, but we are looking for sponsors, hint, nudge, nudge, to continue the season. There are a lot of theater practitioners that we wanted to interview, but because of the COVID actually limited our what we wanted to do, because some people were in that age group and they were not coming outside, they were not letting people in the house. So we would like to continue. There are a lot of theater stalwarts that we would like to interview. People, they're loving the concept, they love the show so far, who have seen them, and we look forward to going ahead.
We can't wait to see it tonight. Tonight, Di Brown comes to host Beige Stage TV. It's a first, and definitely it's a chance for us to celebrate all of these great theatre practitioners in Barbados, celebrate the best of who we are through Beige Stage TV with Di Brown. We can't wait to see it tonight at 9, right here on CBC TV. And all the best, and of course we'll be connecting with you more and more as the season continues, but the next season starts as well. Thank you, Di.
Thank you, Pearson.
You're very welcome. Morning Barbados continues after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
20 minutes now to 8 o'clock. I want to remind you that the Civil Society Forum starts tomorrow the 22nd, runs until the 24th. You can participate. Every one of us can participate. Go on to untad15.org and register to be a part of a Civil Society Forum. Let's turn our attention now to real estate. Sometimes it's not so civil, and we're joined by Agent Sharita this Tuesday morning. Good morning to you, Agent Sharita.
Hi, good morning.
Good to have you, girl. Shack up or shack out. I love the theme alone.
So, Pearson, be warned, after this, I might not have a lot of love from people. I am willing to sacrifice myself for the greater good.
Amen. We tip our hats to you. We really want to thank you already in anticipation of what could very well be the outcome. So shack up or shack out. What are we talking about when we say that?
All right, so let's be honest. In Barbados, as the Greater Caribbean, a lot of our couples are unmarried, and there are a lot of shacking up situations going on. Don't hate me, people. It's all about what you prefer. But I am here to tell you that there can be some consequences to deciding to buy property as part of a little shack up relationship. So the reality is, you know, there are certain laws in place for married couples. They're seen as joint tenants in general. So when if anything happens, there are kind of a set rules and regulations for what happens if one passes, if they divorce, etc. in terms of property. Not so much in the case of those who, for love, decide to buy property together. So you have to be cautious when proceeding.
So what are some of the pitfalls, the dangers there? Because, I mean, if we're in love, but yet we're not married and we're living in this place, but for whatever reason, after 2 years, we split, but I've invested in this property. Am I not entitled to get back out of it what is mine?
Well, listen, I will start off by saying, love or not, put everything in writing. That is what will save you when things can and will go wrong. This is adult life, right? The reality is that, let's say, for example, Sheena Susie decides that she's getting married to John Bob. And you know what? For the sake of getting this mortgage off and running, Sheena Susie is going to sign off the mortgage herself. She has the capacity to pay. John Bob ain't really bringing much to the table. But guess what? They have then decided to go into this relationship and cohabitation exercise, believing that they own the property together. Well, really and truly, if Sheena Susie signed off, she is the owner. She has the title of the property in her name, and anything he puts towards it is like putting rent. He thinks he's an owner because she said, we own the property, but buddy, you ain't own a thing.
Nothing.
So when you guys break up, guess what? The law doesn't see you as a married couple. So Sheena Susie gets to keep all. Even if you did all the gardening, even if you painted all the walls, even if you put in that sweat equity, tough luck. Sheena Susie's name is on the title and it's her house. But then we look at other situations now where people come into the relationship and, well, one might provide perhaps just 20% of all that goes into it. The other might provide 80% of all that goes into it. And then one of them passes. And the 20% one is pretty much left with the house. But as far as 80% man was concerned, he's leaving his share to his children.
Right.
His adult children might come along and decide, we want the house to sell it and get our money out of it. And as far as 20% lady is concerned, but this is my house, I put in money. So you can see the myriad of problems that can arise because there's no set structure to what happens.
And I know you're not an attorney at law, but because of your experience, you know, and you're quite right, put it in writing. Make sure there's something documented that's in some way notarized so that anyone who finds a piece of paper understands this is the arrangement. And no one can now come in and muscle their way into a situation that they have absolutely no right to.
That's exactly it. And sometimes you see love is blinding, right? Oh, we trust one another, and we can set up this joint account, can pay the bills, but then one who was the major breadwinner gets a job on a cruise ship and he gone long and says, sweet girl, watch the property for me. And as far as she's concerned, she thinks it is hers as well, but the relationship was never defined financially.
Right.
So although you went into this saying, this is ours, what really is yours? You understand? And then if one party dies, does the other party really want the next one to get, you know, full ownership of that property?
Yes.
Did they think it through? So you have to spell out, you have to spell out what's going on financially, even if you decide that you're signing off on a mortgage between the two of you.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. After all, it saves you the hassle later on should anything occur. But so when a married couple approaches you, Agent Shearet, and says, you know, we're looking at the little place there in Strathclyde because we want to buy it, and you say?
Well, I start off by asking, what's your budget? I can't get up into your relationship. That is the tough part. However, I can tell you situations I have seen that make me shudder thereafter. For example, I have a property on the market now. They bought it as boyfriend and girlfriend, but guess what? They broke up. He has skipped out. She is stuck at the property with the mortgage because he's like, I'm out. So I'm not paying a cent more. And in her trying to keep it alive so that she can sell it, she is now saddled with the debt of this property, and he's gone along about his business. And then might have the nerve to ask, so when you sell it, you know,
remember
still give me PC money.
Yeah. Boy, that's hard. And that's hard for a lot of people. So don't let love blind you to the point where you don't protect your equity, so to speak. You know, that you make sure that those things are put in place so that you don't have that hassle.
Yes. And the reality is, Pearson, thanks to the world situation right now, as you know, especially in Barbados, it is easier to own property with a double income or two names on that mortgage. So when they do your checks and your financial checks, they're seeing income from two people. So for that reason, that's why a lot of unmarried couples are making these decisions to go in on it together. And also, instead of paying rent, you know, we still have that desire to own.
Right.
But the thing is, the whether it is a married relationship or just two people shacking up, you need to put pen to paper and decide what is going on. Another thing that happens too, and I keep seeing it, like say for example now, they bought a plot of land as boyfriend and girlfriend, and then John decides, I want to sell it. And she reluctantly agrees, but then she doesn't agree on the price, and on and back and forth. Yeah, so what starts off as love and bliss, and I am all for happy relationships, you have to think of the outcome and be sensible and sit down and write down, whether with legal help or not, what happens if we fall out of love? Does your portion go to your trifling children that I can't stand? Or are you can I buy you out? Can I, you have to have that discussion. Otherwise, heartbreak can literally almost physically be heartbreak.
Oh my goodness! So you better shack up or shack out. But I don't know if there's an easy way out. Really, I mean, yes, you say document, write it down, have an agreement in writing. But I don't know if there's an easy way out of the breakup and how the property is distributed at the end of the day. Well, so you got to think it through carefully.
Can I say this, Pearson? And I might get stoned. For this one. Ladies, let you put a ring on it first. Men, get down on your knee and do the old-fashioned thing. It's worth it in the end if you really feeling this one. If your mind can't get to that stage, let them go along. Let them go along. No shacking up for you.
Wow. Listen, you have a support in that one right here. If you can't do it together, don't do it at all. Do it on your own. Go own your property on your own, but don't try to make an arrangement where at the end of the day it's fraught with so many challenges when you don't have a formal relationship in place. And that's the thing to guard against. So make that decision very carefully. So, and going forward now, we're saying to people today, if you're in an unmarried relationship, you're just in a relationship, casual, whatever, be careful as you go forward to have this joint property because it is going to run into some problems. Word to the wise is enough. All right, Agent Sharita, we got to leave it there. Remember, Agent Sharita on Instagram, Barbados Real Estate 246 everywhere else, and that's the face you look for. 233-8888, 233-8888. All the information is right there on your screen, and you give her a call and let Agent Sharita guide you through your real estate experience. It's going to be a good journey. Thank you so much, Agent Sharita.
Bye-bye.
All the best. Bye-bye. We're going to take a break right here. When we come back, Thornwood joins me right here on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
So we're 8.5 minutes away from the hour of 8 o'clock. So I stay where I am today because he's where he is today. Thornwood, our fitness instructor. Good morning to you, Thorn.
Good morning, Pearson. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Barbados.
Here was I looking forward to stretching at least today, but that's all right. That's all right. You'll do it for me.
Right. We'll believe that. We'll believe that for today. So, actually, today I'm in a different space.
Yes.
I am at Level Up Barbados. I don't know if you can see some of the space behind me.
Yes.
And I'll see some of the. This is Old Town behind Line Grove. Easy to find. So I'll start with the question today real quick, and then I'll talk about that surprise that I have for everyone that I spoke about last week. So I recently posted on my Instagram story, and I asked, what do you think is stopping you from reaching your fitness goals? What do you think are some of the limiting factors? And I find most people mention diet. Some people mention time. Some people mention, trying to find a trainer and scheduling and various things. And my advice to that is this a little bit. Sorry, my advice is to start small, right? Start. Most people get to the point of in terms of the mental aspect of the fitness journey. They go, I'm ready. I want to do these things. On this new diet, this keto, this intermittent fasting, that, and you're telling yourself, I'm going to do all these amazing things. I'm going to book 5 times a week for training, and without realizing where you're at, right? So you need to start small and work your way up. And in starting small, you have the ability to create these small goals, these tiny goals that you can achieve each time, every week, every month. Something as small as instead of, doing an extreme diet, you can make very small your diet instead of having your meal slathered with ketchup or anything. That maybe get that condiment in a ramekin, so you can kind of portion control how much goes into your food.
So start small, and you can reach your goals. Don't try to go to the goal in one big burst. And over time you will see the transformation, you'll see the difference as well. Diet is a part of it, yes, but there are other things that one can do to reach one's ultimate fitness goal as well. But that's a discussion with Mr. Califit 246 that you can have with him and his team as you work through a plan with us so that we can gradually see the improvement and gradually reach those fitness goals as well, right?
Oh, definitely. And adding to the motivation aspect of it, like, when you create those smaller goals, you create what I like to call like a map. And sometimes people fall off. at some juncture, you may not be operating at the same output that you had before, and you might fall off, things may come up, you may get kids and stuff like that, and you have to rethink your life. But then you have these small goals, you have an entire map that you can look back on and be like, okay, well, I can make these baby steps here, or, I'm no longer at the beginning of this journey. Maybe I can be middle here, go up. So then you not only have more of an appreciation, but you have a physical representation as to where you can go, rather than just having this, okay, I want to lose 40 pounds, and that's where I want to be at.
Big. Yes. Now, Level Up anniversary, that's where you are. You're at Level Up Gym at the moment.
Yes, Level Up Barbados.
Tell me about the anniversary you're celebrating.
Yes, 2-year anniversary. So we are collabing, Caliphate and Level Up Barbados, we're collabing in the month of October. Guys, this is going to be really exciting. We have some giveaways that we're going to be doing about every 2 weeks. And in the month of October, we're going to select 2 persons, 1 male, 1 female, and we're going to gift them a full body transformation, right? So about 6 weeks. So what you guys need to do is to get ahead of the game and follow both our pages, Caliphate 246 and Level Up Barbados. All the information will be provided in the next coming weeks, so that you guys can know what's going on. It's going to be super exciting. We have some challenges coming up from our trainers here. A brilliant idea that came out last week was that maybe you can come down to the gym and challenge one of the trainers at something that they're good at or that they're not good at. You never know. You might walk away with some cash. You might walk away with a nice shirt. You might walk away with a gym membership.
Well, that's great. So follow Caliphate 246 on Instagram or Level Up. Finish it.
And Level Up. Yeah. So follow both pages.
Right.
There's going to be it's basically going to be a Insta story competition. I don't want to spill too much out of the bag because.
Don't tell me a whole lot then. So this 6-week transformation challenge, can you briefly give me some ideas to what's in that challenge?
So basically, well, so that's not the challenge. Basically, we're gifting 2 people a 6-week transformation. So the challenge will come in the next couple of days. That information will be uploaded to both Instagram pages for you guys to see. Nice and plain, easy information to do. And then what we're going to do is that we're going to have those people come down into the gym. They're going to work with trainers from Caliphate, work with trainers from Level Up Barbados, and give them the ultimate transformation going into Christmas. That what greater gift
that's right
you need in life.
Look sharp for the old years, look sharp for the new years as well, to be as fit as you possibly can. But you need to go onto Instagram and follow Caliphate 246 or Level Up Barbados on Instagram, those 2 pages, and you can track it as you go, because consistency is key and you do whatever it takes. Yeah, I can see it all over your shoulders right there. I can see the words.
Right, guys. So make sure follow up, guys. Caliphate 246, Level Up Barbados. Get ahead of the game. You want to be there so that as soon as that information drops, you can jump in and capitalize. You don't know what we're going to be handing up. It might be a 1,000 burpee challenge.
You do that yourself.
I confident at Pearson going out on Nadia.
Yeah.
1,000 burpees.
I wish her well, for sure.
Tell Sammy come down and do 1,000 burpees.
I'm sure she will. I'm sure she will. And Sam will come as well to do those 1,000 burpees. I'll just do the 1,999th burpee for them all, for sure.
Sammy says gonna disconnect us.
Sam can try all he wants. But listen, so it's important to follow Caliphate 246 on Instagram. It's important to follow Level Up Barbados on Instagram, because these opportunities will be afforded you. And 2 of you, male, female, and it starts in October. And so as it goes, for the month of October, you'll be challenged into that 6-week transformation. And you will see the big difference. And that's the whole point to all of this. We're making yourself fitter and better and healthier as a society as well.
And it's really, that month is really going to be about, just helping as many people as possible, trying to provide more opportunities and making fitness easier, show that it can be done.
Right. Well, you know what I'm doing? I'm watching the clock, so we got to go. I got to say goodbye to you. Thank you so much,
Thank you guys for having me. Bringing it from the top. Keep it simple. Follow Caliphate 246. Follow Level Up Barbados, and stay tuned. Keep those notifications on. You do not want to miss these challenges. I promise you they will be great.
Alrighty then. That's it for today, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's going to be greater tomorrow. We do look forward to seeing you then. Until then, good morning.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up.